This is High Signal. We're joined today with our esteemed guest and my friend Amar, who runs ZenMaid. It's a SaaS which is doing $1.8 million in annual revenue. Amar is also a digital nomad and he's living in Chiang Mai in Thailand at the moment. And basically, I'm going to ask him some questions and then we're going to open it up to the rest of the High Signal community and people are going to shoot Amar questions about their business. I was speaking to my friend Alex West recently and he talks about, having like a great lifestyle first, rather than going for like, a flashy, cool, world-changing kind of business. I'm, really prioritizing, he wants to change his own life rather than, change the world, which is like what a lot of Silicon Valley people are into. Do you have any like views on that, I guess?
I think it's just what motivates you. I think that is one that really just comes down to your personality. That I'm spending time like a lot of time with a really close friend of mine who's an entrepreneur who's here in Chiang Mai for the week, and we think about things so drastically like different that I don't think that it would get him out of bed in the morning just like trying to kind of like achieve like almost like the lifestyle thing. Like for him, he needs to be doing something that's like, shooting for the moon to really like kind of get him going. I mean, as a general rule of thumb, though, I think that yeah, what Alex said, I think rings very, very true. And I think that it's particularly good advice for folks who are trying to make like a funded startup succeed because they think that's like the best way to sort of become financially independent, right? Like if you're actually doing it because you believe in your project and it's like, what actually gets you going, then by all means. But for most people, they'd be better served by going like sort of the lifestyle, like let's get some sort of safe agency to pay the bills and get that like set aside and then go for like that big like home run, $100 million outcome, whatever.
Okay, awesome. Amar, is it you? Are you underneath the flight path?
Yes, the airport
No
is
worries.
pretty much next to me. Yeah.
Cool. I was just checking who I should yell at, but you're our like honored guest, so I can't yell at you. So that no worries, it's all good. One of your friends, is it Jesse, who does the drop-in blog product? He had a big feature on like CNBC recently on their website about his lifestyle. Has a really good lifestyle in Bangkok, Thailand, on maybe like 100K or so, or a little bit over. And that there's quite a lot of developers that make that in America, obviously. This is maybe like a tough question, but why do you think more Americans aren't doing like nomading, basically?
Because they're cowards and have no honor. Um, I don't know. I think there's very much a specific timing to it. I think that when you're in like maybe like your mid to late 20s, I think it's very easy to kind of look at like these sorts of opportunities and to just be like, oh, well, why doesn't everyone do that? But you have to
Hmm.
remember how many people are like younger than 20 and just like don't have the option to do that, like economically or legally or whatever, and how many people are like over 30 and just have like real world obligations like kids or like older parents or like something like that. So I think that it's just something that it's also like, let's say that you come across this idea again when you're like in your early 30s, you don't have a family or like, or something like that. It's like you might just be really settled in like wherever you are and just have
Yeah.
no interest in doing that. Like I'm settling in the UK next year because, I think my wife is going to murder me if I take her to another country, like she's sick of moving around,
Yeah.
and like honestly, I get it. Even now, it's like as much as I travel, I don't go to new places anymore because it's just like it's too much simulation. I've already got like a bunch of places that I've gone to a bunch of times that I go to kind of like on repeat that challenge me in different ways that, I'm kind of like over it. So,
Yeah.
I think,
Okay.
yeah,
Yep,
but
that's
I,
cool.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, there's also like other things like with Jesse, for example, that one thing is that it's not just a developer, but he's an entrepreneur who makes his own schedule. So if you're a developer and you've got to be on team meetings and stuff and you're working in the United States, well, going to Bangkok, that's great. But like, are you actually going to be in Bangkok for like, 10 months a year or something, and like having to be on meetings during US time zones? Doesn't mean you have to work US hours, but like that's like one of many little hurdles that might stop people along the way. But anyone that wants to can.
Yeah, I feel yeah, that's no, that's excellent points. Yeah, I guess it's easy in my tech bubble to be like everyone should just nomad and stuff like that. So you made some excellent points. Getting more onto like founder stuff. Um, is there any kind of like common indie hacker like mistake that you see again and again that founders that are bootstrapped make in general?
Mainly like over engineering and not essentially marketing early enough, or like talking to actual customers early enough. Like people talk about, oh, like, talking to customers. Like, to me, talking to customers, marketing, sales, it's like all, multiple sides of like the same coin, or like whatever, right? Like they're all like not interchangeable, but they're all very closely related. And I think most indie hackers wait way too long to start actually getting feedback from their like potential users. And then on the over engineering point, the number of times that I see people spending, um, hours, half days, full days, putting something into their software that could be just solved manually for the time being and doesn't need to be like built out for 6, 12 months, etc. Those sorts of things. I guess you do end up with a more kind of automated product like over time, but I just feel like in terms of speed of execution, it's the wrong thing to be focusing on.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think like we could always learn from going back to the kind of uh Paul Graham essay of doing things that don't scale, whereas
Mm.
a lot of uh, developer founders, I guess, will, make spend ages like automating something maybe before they've even found any customers, or like,
Yeah,
okay, you've spent so much time making this product, and then
yeah.
it's kind of like that. I don't know if it's yeah, the kind of like Sideshow Bob and Simpsons where like standing on all the rakes and he's just like, oh shit, yeah, nobody wants my actual product. Um, and yeah, final question from me before like I'll open it up to everyone else. And yeah, as always, just put questions in the Zoom chat, people, and then I can call you out one by one. Um, like ZenMaid's obviously like super successful and you've got like a team and a co-founder and everything. And like if you're like starting from scratch today, is there anything you do differently? Would you do like maybe like no code tools to like speed things up, or would you pretty much go the same route as you did?
No, I do quite a few things like differently, but I mean, I think a lot of things would fundamentally be the same. So I would definitely want to be looking with a partner to be starting again, and that's just for me knowing myself that like I definitely have like the internal drive in some ways, although that drive has very much disappeared now that like I have the lifestyle freedom that I want. But like the external, pressure from like co-founders and like and stuff like that to me is very helpful. That like there's lots of like developers out there that dream of having like $1 million one person business. I can't think of anything worse. That to me sounds insanely stressful. I would rather have a $1 million business that makes a 10% margin where a bunch of other people do all of the work and I just take back $100,000 a year, right? And just like not have to worry about it. To me, I would rather have that business, right? And that's very clear in how I've run it. We don't have a large profit margin at ZenMaid, but I spend very little time, or I don't have to spend very much time like in ZenMaid. I'm keeping everything going or whatnot. Um, but in terms of what you were saying, like, yeah, no code tools. I mean, I think the biggest thing that I would do is I would probably have a technical co-founder, likely my current CTO at ZenMaid, and I would essentially deploy him to like work on the product, and then I would essentially be focused on adding value to whoever like our niches, whoever our target audience is, in as many like almost non-technical ways as possible. So I'd be touching on no code tools, as like ways to like, to build out little things, calculators, stuff like that, that might like help them. And I'd be very much focused on almost like an audience first kind of approach, right? Like for me, if it's going to take him 6 to 12 months to build out the product, of course we do customer development. We'd make sure we're on the right track before we begin coding anything, doing like all that stuff. But while the team was actually building, I'd probably be trying to like build a blog and build up an audience and like a launch list and all of that stuff. So like honestly, it's a lot of very much like the same things like for ZenMaid. The difference is that because I've executed on so many different specific strategies and tactics and marketing channels in ZenMaid, I know exactly what I would do and how to shortcut, 90% of the decisions, right? Like setting up another Google AdWords campaign, 90% of the stuff is going to be like exactly the same, or it is going to be a decision that I've already made multiple times in the past. And then some of it will be different, like keywords and things like that. So really, like I said, I mean, very, very similar, but my speed of execution now would just be, so much faster than the first time through, and that would compound, right? Because we'd also get more information, get more feedback. So like, yeah, I mean, the next business, like I think it took us 6 years to generate $1 million for ZenMaid, and the next business, like the goal would be to do it in like 2 to 3. So
Awesome.
that's just kind of how like the expectations have changed. Like if I didn't see a clear path to do that, I probably wouldn't pursue that idea.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good answer. Thanks, man. Cool. Right. We'll open it up to the high signal like community members just now. Val, you've got a question?
Yeah, I really have like several questions all packed into one. But so ZenMaid has been around for like over 10 years now, I want to say maybe.
9 years,
9 years.
10,
Okay,
10 in 10 in April. Yeah.
nice. So over that time, how has the way you acquire new customers changed?
Yeah.
And
Good question. Yeah.
yeah. So answer that and I have a follow-up.
Okay, yes, that sounds good. Yeah, so just quickly there. So the first 100 customers were essentially cold email and cold calling, combined with one partnership that we kind of got along the way. Around 100 was where a lot more of our inbound marketing began to kick in. I guess actually out of the first 100, some of it was from paid ads because we've actually run paid ads since day one, but at a very, very small amount. So we started out, I think, at $100 a month, so $3 a day on Google was what we initially started with, just so that we knew that we'd have 1 to 2 actual maid service owners clicking to our site like consistently, and yeah, and then since like 100 customers, that's when inbound kicked in, and that's where we've got like a blog. We've built up a YouTube channel over time. We stopped doing all of the outbound and like the cold email and cold calling. We stopped doing that around when essentially it became unmanageable to kind of manage like the leads and who we'd followed up with. And at that point, I was the only one who could really do that. And so at some point, I obviously wanted to stop doing that, and we didn't really try to find someone else that was going to come in and cold call people and like grow the company like that way. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. We've tried just about every marketing thing like under the sun at this point. We have like the most popular, virtual conference for maid service owners. That of course leads to a lot of partnership opportunities and stuff like that. We're working a lot on our SEO and everything like right now. Yeah, all the things. Trade shows a bit. At this
Yeah, so
point, we're
like
just trying to
a
kind of
mix of
be
everything.
everywhere. Yeah, mix
Yeah.
of everything. Yeah.
And like, how do you know when to start looking for like a new channel? So like, you mentioned that you've used everything by this point, but like at what point like before you used something new, you thought, okay, we definitely need we definitely need a new channel to acquire customers. Like how does that work? Like what is the thought process there of saying, okay, I think that is it that you think you're slowing down or you're using up the channels that you already have? Or do you see like an opportunity?
I almost don't understand the question because it's like, why would I not always be looking for like all the channels, right? Like that's kind of how I think about it. So it's more that like I'm always looking for like the opportunities and noting down where we can potentially be making a difference in our marketing. And then from there, it's just matching that with the amount of resources that we have available. So like for me, I have a team now of like, it's close to 40 people, although the marketing team is quite small, that I work very, very closely with the two marketing team members, and we have a couple like agencies outside of that. So our resources to implement certain things are going to be vastly different from you guys, right? And so with that, it's just thinking, in a perfect world, yeah, maybe we would all have baller affiliate programs where like, we would treat all of our affiliates like royalty and give them like foot rubs until they sent out emails to their list and made us like a bunch of money. But like, we can't do that for a variety of reasons, right? And so that's where I feel like that in particular is more of a challenge for bootstrappers, right? That like all of our businesses are really about like resource allocation, but when you have funding, it's a lot easier to just like try a bunch of things and pay people to do that. When it's just you and like your co-founder and only one of you is like half focused on the marketing, there's only so many different marketing options that you guys really have like a true choice to actually implement and to see if it makes a difference. So yeah, that's kind of how I look at it, right? Um, Always on the lookout for the opportunities, and then at some point I try to filter down to what to what like realistically we can make happen.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks a lot. Rurtan, I think you've got a question.
Yeah, so kind of related to that, because you got to not all the strategies work initially, of course. You have to put in some time before they start getting traction. And how do you decide between like keeping going because you have faith in the strategy, or switching things up and doing something differently?
So I think a big question here is like, what sort of level, I guess, are we talking about when you're asking about working? Do you mean like almost from like a company, like product perspective of like, is this business idea like feasible? Or do you just mean like, I'm trying Facebook ads, when do I throw in the towel?
Yeah, more like granular strategy. So, for example, in customer acquisition channels.
Mhm. Yeah, so I don't feel like I have the best answer for this, but I can tell you how we approached it at the beginning and up until recently, and then how we approached it now, and maybe that'll be like helpful. So, up until recently, essentially, what I've always tried to do, I'm very like I have very like ADHD brain, right? So my brain just jumps around to a bunch of different things. Setting up tracking and like KPIs and stuff like that tends to get in the way of my like creativity or like getting stuff done. So I've been really bad about like tracking stuff. So what we always did was, essentially with the exception of paid ads, we try to make all of our marketing, so primarily like our content marketing, we try to make all of our content marketing valuable to everyone like in our industry, but in particular like to our customers, so that we never really had to answer the question of like, is this working or not? Like the question was maybe like, is it getting us marketing results? But we know that it's worth doing because it's helping a couple of people like with their businesses to succeed or whatever. And so it was very much more of like an intuition based thing. If it was something like cold email, with cold email, it was like, I think like being willing to like tinker with things, let's say 3 or 4 times, to see if you can get a hint of some sort of like success is probably worth it. And I think if you've tinkered with something at that point and it's not happening, then I think it's probably time to move on like to something else. But one thing that I think is like actually more the answer to your question is, if you guys find a channel that you don't think is working for you, remember to file it away as like this channel didn't work for us at this time. Because I have way too many friends that I've seen that went, oh, like we ran paid ads and it didn't work. and they're not willing to consider that maybe the copy sucked, maybe the offer sucked, maybe they had a bad reputation at the time because they were like brand new or nobody had heard of them or whatever. And now a couple of years later, they're still hesitant about it, right? And so, like, you know, one of the things interesting is you'll hear quite a bit about product market fit, right? Well, the other thing is there's product market founder fit, right? Which is like, is it the right product? Is it the right market? Is it the right founder to take on the market and like, and whatever? And the last one that I don't think I've ever heard talked about, but is like the next sort of logical progression would be like the product market, or more like the product marketer fit, right? Where like you have to figure out like the marketing to make these things like work, or sorry, product founder marketing fit, right? And so with that, it's that, you know, if you're not good on the phones, then chances are you're not going to get your first 100 customers the same way that I did, because you're probably not going to pick up the phone, cold call people, and get them to actually pay you money. I did tech sales before starting ZenMaid. That's why I went down that route. So it's about finding like what works for you, trying a bunch of different things until you find what works, and, you know, come back to things that haven't worked for you in the past, and eventually you'll make it work.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was also filing away that advice because I think there's stuff before I've launched that I've just been like, oh yeah, no one bought that, but yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe my copy sucked or whatever. So yeah, that's good advice. Naz, I think you've got like a couple of questions if you want to fire them off.
Yeah, sure. So Amar, the stage I'm at is when you were getting your first 100 customers, right? That's pretty much the same stage I'm at, and the way we are growing is through cold emails, and it's actually working well. But the question for you is, you went down the strategy. What I see from the outside, what you're executing is courses, right? Selling courses and getting using that as a channel to acquire new users. So can you talk a bit about that strategy and how that's working for you?
Sorry, where were you seeing that we're selling courses?
Not course. I mean, really small things like, you know, how to hire.
Did you mean more like content? Yeah, okay, like content sort of marketing. Yeah. So essentially, like for maid services, we kind of simplified almost like the categories that most maid service owners are interested in down to essentially three umbrella topics, right? That every maid service owner is essentially going to be looking to improve either their like cleaning services, right? So like the actual product, which is mainly hiring, right? It's hiring great cleaners, the marketing or the sales, getting like more cleaners, and then like the management and like the automation and like and the systems. And so what we've done there is we've essentially just tried to create as much content around helping them to be successful with marketing and with hiring. And then we've had some other topics that have kind of come up like organically, like over time, but that's like top of funnel content. So people oftentimes find our blog when they have no interest of changing like their current scheduling solution, right? So it gets us a lot of traffic, but it doesn't get us a huge amount of conversions, but it builds up our brand equity over time. And so the idea is that like when they're ready to switch, they will, right? Or they'll at least take a look and evaluate our software, and then from there our software has to do the work of converting them. But that's essentially like the strategy in a nutshell. And then like from there, you know, what I just said, that's all of like the top of funnel content. And then from there, we have a couple of pieces that are more bottom of funnel content where we know that if somebody hits this page, then like they're likely going to go to our website and sign up for a trial, right? Or considerably more likely at least.
So just to get a better understanding, so you have some pieces of content that you charge for those, right, on your website. So what's the thinking behind that?
We have only like 4 maybe that we charge for. It's not very many, like maybe like 5. It's just some things you want to charge for. Like it doesn't like honestly, none of those things that we charge for make us a significant amount of money. But like, you know, part of it has to do with people valuing like what you're putting out there and like and stuff like that. Um, like an ebook is a great example of that. Most people won't read a free ebook. That charging money actually increases the rate of like reading with an ebook, right? That we don't want to give away an 80-page ebook like for free. It's too much, right? So yeah, I mean each one's probably like kind of dependent. I mean, we did at some point try to create like a hiring funnel, a marketing funnel, and like a tech and automation funnel, but you know, I mean, here's one important lesson for you guys, that just because you see a company doing something doesn't mean that it's like that it's working, right? Like I would not recommend following like our information product thing based on what you see on like on our website right now, right? That, you know, when you're asking about the strategy and the thought behind it, I can tell you why we tried it, but like it's not really working, you know?
Good. The next question is mine as well. I think I'll just go ahead and ask it. Yeah, so in terms of the growth trajectory of your business, can you give us some insight into what this market looks like in terms of competition? And did your growth like scale up once the other players, let's say like the bigger players like Launch 27, they got bought out and people were leaving? Did those things affect you?
Not really. We haven't really seen anything other than COVID that's like actually made any significant impact on like on ZenMaid's growth. It's like when Launch 27, like when they sold out, like we had a couple of folks that came over, like noticeably more than like than usual. But when you look at it, I mean, it wasn't even like a blip on our growth, right? It was like, oh, we added like, you know, 44 new customers instead of 41 month, right? Like, you know, I mean, it's a small amount. Like, it's nothing like to sneeze at or whatever. But it's not like we've ever had any event where, you know, it like drastically, you know, kind of shifted and everything. The only things with that were like two things that were completely like internal. So, and then in terms of like the competitive like landscape and stuff, we have maybe five or so like very direct competitors, as in they serve our exact like target audience. We have one that's now quickly becoming kind of like, you know, like the undisputed number two in the industry, but they serve like bigger maid services than we do. So in a lot of ways, like we're both number one. It just kind of depends on like which size of like maid service you are. And then after them, there's like a bunch of like also rans kind of. And then we have quite a lot of softwares that are more general that, you know, could probably work with like, you know, some of the yoga studios or whatever that you're working with, and could also work with like a maid service that could potentially like use ZenMaid. And for that, it's like, I don't know, 20, 30, like 50, God only knows how many of those there are. But of them, there's only maybe two or three that I would say that are actually like regularly in the conversation as like being compared to ZenMaid. So it kind of feels like we're just competing with maybe like three or four competitors at like kind of like the top of like the industry like space.
Awesome. I think Anna had a question for you.
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone. Hi, Amar.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm recently been into the task of figuring out how founders use social media strategy, how they integrate it in the general marketing mix. So I'm very curious. Do you guys have specific, what is your approach to social media marketing in general? And have you ever used any influencers, any partnerships in this field? If you have, then could you please walk us through the process? How did you find them? How did you vet them? How did you task them with creating content for you? And what metrics did you track, the most important part? And if you have never done it, then the obvious question is why.
Um, so the first thing is we've never really tracked it. I'm sure that I could pull up some of the data and that maybe my team has tracked it, but like I was mentioning, I am not big on tracking. I'm big on just like doing the work and kind of seeing what happens. But yeah.
So you mean you never
me,
tracked any impact of your social media activity? Is that what you mean?
yeah. Like
Okay.
we just try to put out like good content that we feel would help maid service owners if they were to come across it. And that's essentially what we've always focused on. But recently we have changed that. We're beginning to put KPIs in place
I'm
because
sorry
we
for
have,
interrupting.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, go for it.
Do you usually put out the content on your personal account, or is it the branded account that we're talking about?
Branded account, and then like if you like, I consider kind of posting to our Facebook group to kind of be
Okay.
like part of like of social media, and then like posting to our Instagram page and stuff, but nothing for me personally. Um, yeah, I'm not friends with very many maid service owners, and I don't want to use my personal profile to market ZenMaid. Like Pete's friends with me on Facebook, he'll tell you that, you know, you almost never see anything about ZenMaid on
Yeah,
there.
I
Like I'm
know.
quite active.
You
Yeah.
almost never do anything like that. That's what I'm
Yeah,
asking.
yeah. So, that's just me personally, though. It might just be the market that we're in and all that stuff. So, but in terms of like social media and like in partnerships and stuff, we've done a lot of stuff with partnerships and everything. So we're in a very like small niche industry. So we've just sort of over time built relationships with the various, like I'm essentially just looking for anyone that shares an audience with us. So whether it's like a review software that caters to cleaning companies specifically, or like a hiring software, or whether it's coaches or consultants, or like, you know, the virtual assistant, like answering services that some people are providing.
Do you
Yeah.
search for them manually, or do you guys use
I
any?
mean, it's just being in the industry. That's the whole thing. Is I see all this stuff about it, and it's
Okay.
like I just know them, right? Like I've been in the
Okay.
industry for 9 years now, so like, yeah, there's no
Knowledge
search
gained
tool
with
that's gonna.
experience.
Yeah, exactly. Because like I haven't seen a single directory where you can just search for like cleaning industry influencer that comes up with
Yeah.
every person that like I would say is a cleaning industry influencer, right?
Mhm.
So, um, yeah, and then once we like kind of generated that list, then it's just like adding people to it, like as we find more, because we do
Mhm.
find that every year there's more and more influencers that have popped up on TikTok and Instagram and like and all this. And so we're trying to always keep a list. And then anyone that we recognize that's putting out good content, we invite to speak at our annual summit. And so we have that, and so that's how we've worked with a lot of the
Mhm.
industry influencers, is through that we'll have anywhere from 40 to 60 speakers each year.
But you've never
And yeah,
tried to kind of arrange them posting something about you, or some kind of references or endorsements, stuff like that.
yeah, we've done some stuff like that. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
if you look at like our homepage, we have like a video. It's like an interview from like me with one of the biggest consultants in the
Mhm. Mhm.
industry, and there's just a perfect clip from that where she's just like, oh, like every maid service needs a software exactly like ZenMaid, right?
Okay.
And it's
Okay.
about as close to perfect as you can get. But that's literally just clipped from like from
What
an
do
interview.
what do you track in this case when you ask them for endorsement and stuff like that?
We don't. That's
Okay.
what I mean. I'm not a tracker. Like I'm beginning to, or I'm beginning to have my team track that stuff, but like I just don't care. Like I know that that endorsement is good for my business, just
Okay.
period, right? So
So it's
like until
basically the
now,
planting
yeah.
the seed strategy,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
exactly. And so now after 9 years, I mean, it's definitely a bit like late, but like now we're actually looking at like everything. We've had the tracking set up for quite a while now, but now we're beginning to actually dig into the numbers and to look at the data. And so we're beginning to slow down a couple of things and increase like elsewhere. Like we just made the decision, for example, to cut all of our marketing spend in New Zealand, because we just looked at the numbers and we're just like, you know what, like we're getting a couple customers here, but they pay us less and cost us more. There's just no reason to spend like this money, even though it's nice to have more customers, right? It was almost like vanity revenue.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
awesome.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks both. Right, we'll have like 2 more questions, strictly only 2 more, and then we'll let you go, Amar. Val's got a question, I believe.
I noticed you guys started offering a free plan. I don't know if you've had that for a while, but how well does this convert? Like, are there any people that just stay on it forever?
Yeah, I mean, you can see my previous answer of I have no idea. I mean, yeah, I don't know. We did think it through, and we have looked through the numbers at a couple of of different points. I don't remember what it was the last time that we had checked, but it's another one where we know that the free plan is truly valuable, and that it's truly valuable, but so is the paid plan, and that there's a nice difference between the two. So we know that some people prefer like one or the other, and yes, we definitely have people that are staying on the free plan forever, mainly in the UK. That we've just found that UK owners are, well, not the best,
Cheap.
let's say. Yes.
Cheap.
Yeah. Not every UK owner, has a replenishing bank account like the Queen, or not the Queen, but the royal family. So yes, they seem to be very price sensitive, so price sensitive. It's so bad. Anyways, yeah, I mean, that's we definitely have that, and you have people that'll be on the paid plan, and it'll be sharing logins and stuff like that, and then contact us going, hey, this didn't work. We're like, yeah, we can see why. That's exactly why you need to follow the proper process and pay us the money that you owe us, so yeah.
Awesome.
But the free plan, sorry, just quickly there, the free plan, even if 0 people converted from the free plan to the paid plan, it would likely be worth it because of what an amazing marketing tool it is. That what we have is that because we put that front and center everywhere, that we offer a free for life plan, and because we're trying to attract some of the really little guys that are really price sensitive, that are going to actually have the money to pay us in the future, a lot of them are going to be clicking and they're going to be talking about us. We've seen the social media mentions and stuff like that have gone up over time, particularly in all of the Facebook groups. And so having that is a massive win. But what we do is everyone goes through the same sign up process. And even if you want to sign up for the free plan, you have to input your credit card information. And whether you want the free plan or not, you get a 14-day trial with all of the paid features. And the number of people that fall in love with the paid features during that 14-day trial and never are on the free plan is a nice amount. But since launching that, I think it was about 40% maybe of increased trials that just by essentially being able to run those free for life ads.
Nice, thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, I did notice ConvertKit, I believe, don't totally quote me on this, but I think when they start you off, they when they do the free trial, when you sign up, they give you the pro features, because just like you said, they want you to fall in love with the best features possible, and then you're more inclined to upgrade. But yeah, that's the side note. Final question from Naz, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, sure. So Amar, this is a bit of a selfish question. So you mentioned, the next business you do, we would probably choose something where you can probably get to $1 million within 2 or 3 years. So just a thought experiment for you. If you're moving to an adjacent industry, right, a similar software adjacent space, for example, fitness, yoga studios, right? What are the top 2 or 3 things that you would do to grow this company quickly?
So the adage that you hear, or the cliche that you sometimes hear that I think rings very, very true, is first-time founders focus on product, second-time founders focus on distribution. And that would very much summarize the change between the two, is that previously I would have been very focused on the product, whereas like at this point I would almost assume that the product is going to take care of itself, right? Like if it's a well-defined product and you're not looking at game-changing technology, there shouldn't be anything difficult about getting a talented technical person to solve like the industry problem in the way that like that you want to, and to build or to give you a foundation to build on. So the main thing I think would be that a ton of my attention, I mean, like, you know, I think in the beginning of ZenMaid, it was like 80% product attention, 20% kind of like marketing, even though, you know, I was kind of the marketer and I had my friend like building the product. We're still making all sorts of like product and technical decisions and stuff that involved like industry expertise, which is what I had. And if I was going to do it over, it would probably be spending a tiny bit more time defining the product better at the beginning, and then spending 80% of my time like marketing. And the main thing is I would be looking for, I think I would be spending my time trying to find the one or possibly two channels that could get us to, let's say, $10, $20, $30,000 a month as fast as possible. Because I think that's probably the biggest factor in how quickly you're able to do it, is like the more resources that you have at the beginning to plow back into the business, the faster that you're going to be able to do it, right? Like for ZenMaid, it took us over 3 years to get to $10,000 a month. Right. And then in the 4 years after that, we went from 10,000 a month to 100,000 a month. Right. So like the main difference here would be like if I could find paid advertising that would work, or some sort of, you know, cold email or something that I could scale up like much faster, so I could get it from 0 to like, you know, 5K or 10K in the first like 12 months, that would probably set you on like on that path. Yeah, and then honestly, I mean, going back to what Anna was asking about, is also like partnerships that I would probably try to double down on like other people's audiences. Like the term is like OTA or OPA. I forget what the T stands for in OTA. It's the same thing. Like, but yeah, like other people's audiences, right? Is that, you know, particularly if you're a second time founder and you have the reputation, it becomes a lot easier to go to people and to be like, hey, I'm working on this thing. I'd like to send out an email to your list. I'll, you know, compensate you this much, right? Like, you know, 100% of the first month sales, whatever it might be. But I would probably try to go that way and offer some very, very generous ways to plug into to other people's audiences and to scale up the awareness like that. Like similar to why people do AppSumo deals, but like, you know, without like sacrificing my firstborn.
Awesome. I think that's a really good answer, but I think we should probably wrap things up. Thanks a ton for joining us today, Amar. It was like really cool to get your insights on all our different businesses. This has been High Signal. We have a Telegram community and we do Zoom calls every Thursday, where we basically do calls where we help each other out, talk about our businesses, and it's a really good way as well to de-stress and enjoy your indie hacking business a lot more. But yeah, thanks a lot for sharing all your tips with us, Amar. And yeah, I'll be talking to you on Facebook soon about getting hench. Yeah, that's cool. Let's do it. Side note.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
all right, cool. Thanks for having me, guys. Follow me on Twitter, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll
plug your SoundCloud.
Cool. Yeah, cool. Thanks for having me. Really nice to chat with you guys. And if you guys have any questions or want to hear from me about anything else, just drop me a DM on Twitter anytime. Always happy to chat, as Pete will tell you. So awesome. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.